The 2025 summer transfer window is right around the corner for Major League Soccer, and this is a very, very important window as several teams are going to be looking to make moves to make that final push for the 2025 playoffs and 2025 MLS Cup. In 2016, the Seattle Sounders were able to sign Nico Ladero in what was the most important move in the club's history and help them win their first MLS Cup. There is a historic trend on how important the summer transfer window is, especially for teams trying to make that final push and lift the cup. So we're going to name a couple teams today who need to have a big summer window if they want to win MLS Cup this season. But before we get into that, make sure you like this video down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're getting closer to 7K subscribers. I think we're a little over 300 away, but we're also trying to hit 10,000 by the end of the year. So make sure you subscribe if you haven't already and hit that little bell notification so you never miss any of my videos. Now, the first team that needs to have a big transfer window this summer is Inter Miami. Inter Miami have so many players over the age of 35, and they have a lot of inexperienced players, but they need to add someone maybe in their prime, someone who can give them a different dynamic, and especially because this is a team that's going to play in the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup. And as the roster is currently constructed, they are set to get embarrassed and probably absolutely demolished in this tournament. They need to add some defensive reinforcements. They need to add a striker up top who can give this team a new dynamic. Luis Suarez is 38 years old. He had a good 2024 season where he scored over 20 goals, but at 38 years old, Father Time is undefeated, and you can just see the decline that he's had this season. Abondo is a young player with a lot of promise, but he's only 18 years old, and you can't really rely on a player that young to solve all your issues. They need to go for someone more in the sweet spot between 24 to 27 years old. They could theoretically have a designated player spot open this summer if they buy Jordi Alba down. And I think that that should be their main priority, is signing a striker. They have a lot of wing depth. They obviously have Fafa Pico, Allende. They have Baltasar Rodriguez. Talasco Segovia could play on the wing. Obviously, they have Messi. They need to get a striker, and they need someone who's around that age. I've mentioned like Tati Castellanos. I don't know if Lazio would be willing to sell him, but someone like that in that profile who can be a lethal goal scorer up top, who can add speed to this team and give this attack a new dynamic. Especially if this team wants to win MLS Cup and capitalize on Messi being here, they need to add some players actually in their prime. I feel like the midfield is pretty solid with Yannick Bright. Sergio Busquets is, okay at this point. Redondo is really good, but the backline also needs some help. I don't think Toto Alvarez is in good graces with Javier Mascherano, and there's some concerns with Noah Allen and Falcone being the only two center backs you really have. And then Ustari is another player I'm not really too confident in going forward as a goalkeeper. So I think they need to add some pieces there, especially if they don't want to get embarrassed at the FIFA Club World Cup and win a trophy this year. So Inter Miami is definitely high on the list. They desperately need a big summer transfer window. Now, moving on to the next team, the Columbus Crew. The Columbus Crew is led by Wilfred Nancy, probably the best manager in MLS and on a trajectory to be the best manager in MLS history. They sold their best player in Cucho Hernandez at the beginning of the season, and he is arguably the best player in club history. So it was a pretty devastating loss, honestly. Losing a player who scored double-digit goals, double-digit assists, a true playmaker, a true lethal threat in the attack. And they did keep Diego Rossi. Diego Rossi's having an MVP caliber season. Honestly, probably my MVP at this point. Then they traded for Daniel Gazdak, but they need a striker. And if they do add a striker, everything else on this team is well-rounded. I mean, this is a deep team. This is a complete team. Darlington Nagbe is still very good. They obviously have Patrick Schulte, who's a great goalkeeper in MLS. Steven Moreira, who's a great defender in MLS. They have so many good pieces on this team. Russell Rowe's not bad, but he's just not good enough, I think, to make this team a true MLS Cup contending team. They're already one of the best teams in the East. They add this piece, get a quality striker, and I'm going to be curious to see what age range or profile they go for as a striker. Are they going to go the younger route like they did with Cucho Hernandez from Europe they did in 2022? Or are they going to sign a South American striker? I'm very curious to see which route they go. But if they get a quality striker, this team could be a force to be reckoned with, and maybe win an MLS Cup in 2025. You can't bet against Wilfred Nancy. This team looks really, really good. Now, the next team is LAFC. LAFC has undergone significant changes to their team. And Steve Cherundolo actually announced that he was leaving at the end of the 2025 season. So this team is in rebuild mode. They're kind of figuring things out. They did struggle at the beginning of the season, but they have kind of started to put things together. Now they did sign a couple pieces, for depth, maybe a couple guys that haven't really panned out, in my opinion. Under is obviously a winger that they have, the Turkish international on loan from Fenerbahce. He hasn't really looked too good to me. Now his deal has an option for purchase this summer, and as of right now, I just don't think you could pick that up. It was like a trial to see if it would work, and it really hasn't, in my opinion. And there's rumors that they could still be targeting Antoine Griezmann. I'm not too confident that I think Antoine Griezmann will end up staying at Atletico Madrid, but there are rumors that they're talking again, and that is a player that I think they desperately need, not just for star power, but a player that can unlock other players like Olivier Giroud and kind of help the attack. David Martinez is obviously a very talented winger, but he's only 18, 19 years old, still very, very raw. They just need a guy who can put the team on his back and help them prevail like they did with Carlos Vela back in the day when he was really, really good. They just really have never truly replaced Carlos Vela. And even when Carlos Vela was playing here in the later days of his career, he just wasn't what he once was. So this team needs to add a couple pieces, but I don't know what they're going to add as far as big spending power because of Steve Cherundolo leaving. I don't know if they're willing to spend crazy money outside of maybe Antoine Griezmann, but I do think they want to try to make a playoff push. They want to make an MLS Cup run. They're currently heading in the right direction, maybe a piece or two. I think they need to sign another center back too to help solidify the back line. But I think that they are a piece or two away from being a true contender once again. So we'll see what LAFC can do going forward in this summer. It'll be a very important transfer window for John Thorrington and LAFC. Now, the next team is the Chicago Fire. The Chicago Fire are led by former USMNT manager Greg Berhalter, and there's a lot of jokes about his quality as a manager. We all know them. Either you love him or you hate him. There's obviously a lot of people who don't like Greg Berhalter, but the team should be in the playoffs in 2025, and they've been rumored to be in the mix to sign the Belgian international Kevin De Bruyne, and that is a piece they desperately need, and they really need to have a player like that who can unlock these other guys like Brian Gutierrez, like Hugo Kuipers, like Jonathan Bamba. I think this would be an incredible signing. They need to get a player like that. Maybe add another center back. A huge Chris Brady fan in goal. I think he's a really good goalkeeper with a bright future for the USMNT. They just need to add a couple pieces, and they need to add a guy like Kevin De Bruyne who can obviously give you something on the pitch, but give you that headline, give you the headlines, right? Get the Chicago Fire talked about more while also producing on the pitch. I think that this would be a perfect home run signing for the Chicago Fire, and it could lead to an incredible offseason, or not offseason, but it could lead to an incredible summer transfer window for this team, and maybe even have them competing for the MLS Cup. Hugo Kuipers is currently tied for the Golden Boot in MLS in 2025. So adding a player like Kevin De Bruyne, Jonathan Bamba's speed on the wing, who knows what this could do? But they desperately need a player like this to help see if they can reach the MLS Cup for the first time in a very, very, very long time. So we'll see what Greg Berhalter does, but the Chicago Fire do need to have a big summer window. The next team is San Diego FC. San Diego FC is an expansion team who have been really exceeding expectations in 2025. Chucky Lozano has had a good season after a slow start. Their best player has been Anders Dreyer, and obviously Luca De La Torre has been good. Annabelle Godoy has been good. But this team has a DP spot open, and it begs the question of which spot they should use it on. They do need to have a big summer transfer window if they want to compete for the MLS Cup or make a serious push in the playoffs. And I've talked to a couple people about maybe signing a striker, which with the way that they play, maybe they don't need one. Maybe use that spot in the midfield. They were in contention with signing Kevin De Bruyne earlier in the season. I still think that in this league, you have to score goals. I don't think there's been an MLS team that has won the cup who haven't had a striker that scored 15 plus goals. So it is very important to sign a striker. And if you put a quality player between Chucky Lozano and Anders Dreyer, that's going to be a lethal team. That's going to be a very hard team to stop in the attack. So personally, I would advise them to sign a striker if they're going to sign a DP. And they have the money. They have one of the richest owners in Major League Soccer. If they can add that, maybe add a couple depth pieces at center back. CJ Dos Santos has been a decent goalkeeper for them. And this is really his first chance to start this season for them. He's been pretty decent. They have a strong start. They've had a very, very strong start with San Diego FC. One of the better starts for an expansion team. Mikey Veras has been a good manager for them. Just a piece or two away, and they could really push maybe even for the first place spot in the Western Conference, even though Vancouver's having a pretty good season, so it might be tough. But they are the best team in they are the best team in California this year. Add a couple pieces. That's a very, very impressive accomplishment. This team can make a serious push for the MLS Cup in 2025. And last, maybe least, because it's Atlanta United. Atlanta United spent $50 million in the last year. They hired Ronnie Dyla, who won the MLS Cup with New York City FC in 2021. They've signed all these players, brought back the club legend Miguel Almiron, the guy that helped them win their first MLS Cup in 2018. And it's just been a disaster for them. They got 2 wins in 12 games. 2 wins in 12 games. They have got to do something this transfer window, and they are kind of tapped financially. They might have to move off one of their DPs, and the most likely one would be Miranchuk because he's the longest tenured DP. They signed Miguel Miron. They signed Emmanuel Latelot this past January. So I think the most logical move would be to move Miranchuk, maybe loan him out, open up a DP spot, move Miguel Miron in the middle, and sign a actual DP winger. Sign an actual DP winger. Saba is he's good on the wing. Put Miguel Miron in the middle as a 10. Obviously, Emmanuel Latelot up top, even though I give him a hard time, and I know he has not performed to what you would expect for someone to cost $30 million. But let's see what happens if they actually get some speed on the wings and put Miguel Miron in his best position in the middle. They have to make some moves. People's jobs are on the line. Now, Ronnie Dyla might be fired by the time the summer transfer window's open, but if he's not, they got to add some pieces. Garth Lagerwey is going to have to make some additions if they want to keep their job. And I think that they've got to loan out Miranchuk and try to get a pacey winger on the right side and see what happens and see if that can truly unlock this attack. But Miguel Miron is definitely better when he's in the middle instead of on the wing, in my opinion. Even though he did play on the wing when he was at Newcastle, I think for this team, he's better in the middle. And they have to have a big transfer window. Arthur Blank expects to win. When you're spending $50 million in Major League Soccer, you can't have 2 wins through 12 games. It's unacceptable. And jobs are going to start being... There's going to be people losing their jobs if they don't get their act together. So Atlanta United have to have a big transfer window in the summer as well. Let me know which team in Major League Soccer do you think needs to have the biggest window in the summer. Let me know down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that little bell notification so you never miss a video. Until next time, guys, I will see you all soon.